One thing you learn about in metallurgy is that no metal is basically pure. If it is melted down, molten metal can be broken down into its component parts, and one finds different structures that can be separated out of the metal to give different elements, and that those elements can be recombined to make a different product than the one began with. It's basic chemistry. If one has that general knowledge, and one then asks the question, well, if you can break down metals to their basic component parts, is it not possible to break down vegetable? And testing proved that it could. These are guys that had a lot of time on their hands. They either worked at the mining, at the chemistry side of things, or they stood up on top of the mountain, studied the skies, and wrote down where stars were on any single night, and over a period of thousands of years started to understand precession and the fact that everything always kind of goes around and comes back to where it was, and started making calendars of events and stuff like that. So these are communities with a lot of time on their hands, and they wanted a method, basically, of storing the information they were gathering so that it would be available from one generation to the next. Chemistry, botany, all chemicals mixed together, brought them around to one day saying, hey, look, if it's in metal, if it's in vegetable, should it not therefore be the premise of animal? And of course, from animal, humans. And the development over time of an understanding of this chemistry. And of course, I'm simplifying things, and I'm shortening the time because these people had all kinds of time in the world. And there are many things that were done prior to the Ice Age that suggest could not be done unless they had a computer. And of course, the most natural computer they had were brains. And the brains of idiot savants, the savant part being the most important part. And if you could get to communicate between all of these and make them into one central computer that would hold all of the information that could be retrieved, you can imagine the pace at development you would get in the Neanderthal community to what you would get in the community of human beings. And of course, human beings depended upon manual storage of information, and that could always be destroyed by somebody who snuck around and lit a fire or sent water rushing in that would flood the place. And like we see today in Burma, people fall back into the Stone Age, basically. You get the same thing in central China with the earthquake, when they're left with nothing of what they're used to getting, they have to start history all over again. Well, thankfully today there are people beyond that danger point that can then come in and assist. But you can imagine 50,000 BC, there were no other people. So basically whatever was learned by a certain community would be destroyed and people would start over again. So these guys in the mountains, they had one hell of an advantage. And while they were there, some of them came up with the idea that why should they do any work, physical work, when all of these people down there could in fact be conscripted into a force of individuals working together on the Neanderthals' behalf. And they began by kidnapping children. Children, especially little boys, could be used to enlarge caves. They were bringing in a lot of stuff they had to store, so enlarged caves was something that had to be done. And if you could get the boys from the village to come up permanently and do that, that would be great. My suggestion is that these mothers' sons is the origin of the stonecutter today, which we call Ma's sons, masons. Priests have power today, but they had to gain that power somehow. Ecclesiastics, which basically encompasses all the sects of priests, monks, reverends, whatever you want to call them, around the world in the religions that exist, all have a function, and that is to be an intermediary between creation, supposedly the creator, and the individual. Yet we know that creation is a process, not a person. And we have to come to terms with the fact that someone along the line wanted to control people, and to control people, that someone had to pretend to be creation, the creator. Well, in a world of hunters and foragers, the only slave that existed at the beginning was a dog. And someone could throw a spear or shoot an arrow and kill a bird or a rabbit and send the dog out to retrieve it. Have you ever asked yourself the question, how come on an Apple computer, when you say fetch, you see the icon of a little dog going away, coming back and picking up what you're looking for and bringing it back? I suggest it's symbolic of the original way of getting things. In mythology, in the image of Gula, which is a priest dressed as a woman, sitting in a chair, has a dog. And the word dog priest applies here.